Don's just like the chamber front man.
Oh, okay.
He's the head of the chairman of the Legislative Education
Good
Committee.
evening, everyone. I'd like you to welcome you to our Meet the Candidates event tonight, sponsored by the Wapakoneta Area Chamber of Commerce. My name is Don Ritchie. I'm chairman of the Legislative Education Committee. Other members of that committee are Chad Metzger, Jason Newmeyer, and Dr. Matthew Joes. And we have been holding events similar to this for several years and hope to in the future as well. The most recently, last fall, we held an event involving the U.S. House of Representative seat that became available with the retirement of Mike Oxley. Also, there's a local commissioner race that we featured, and also a Ohio House seat. 2 years ago, we featured an event for incumbents and candidates for the local chamber or the city council. So we've done several of these over the past, and we hope to continue in the future, and we hope to have another similar event this fall with the mayor's race as well as other contested races. I want to introduce and thank our moderator tonight, Chad Dole, and also Jim Smith will be our timekeeper. Chad is a social studies teacher at the St. Mary's Schools and a citizen of Wapakoneta. And Jim owns a local company by the name of Instant Shade and also lives here in Wapakoneta. So we thank them for their willingness to participate and help monitor our event tonight. The candidates, there's 13 questions that have been developed. Each candidate developed 3 questions of their own. And then the other questions came from chamber members here in the city of Wapak. They've had them for, I think, since the beginning of April. We felt it was important that they had an opportunity to know what the questions were so they could research and think out their answers to those questions. We'll also have a time towards the end of our program for questions from the audience as well. And lastly, before I turn it over to Chad, I just want to welcome the candidates, Tom Finkelmeier Jr. and Steve Henderson. Obviously, if they weren't willing to participate, we wouldn't have tonight's event. They are running for the Republican mayoral nod to go against Democrat Rodney Metz this fall to become the new mayor of the city of Wapakoneta. So at this time, let me go over the format here just briefly, and then I'll turn it over to Chad. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to give an opening statement. We've done a coin flip to determine who has to go first. Then Chad will begin giving them the questions, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. We've also done a coin flip to determine who gets the first question or who gets to answer the first question first, and then we'll just rotate from that point forward. And then we've also had a coin flip to determine who gets to go first or last on the closing statement, which will also be 5 minutes. Chad?
Okay, thank you, Don. Gentlemen, if you're ready. I don't think we have any here. So by coin toss, the opening statements are to be no longer than 5 minutes in length. And Mr. Finkelmeier, you are up first, sir.
Thank you, Chad. Good evening. My name is Tom Finkelmeier Jr. I'm running as a Republican for the mayor of Wapakoneta position. First, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for holding this Meet the Candidates event. I'd also like to thank the Wapakoneta Schools for allowing the use of this large group room and Telephone Service Company for putting this event on our local cable television. A primary, by its very nature, will present 2 or more similar candidates. So I'd also like to thank those in attendance tonight or those that view at home. You're taking your time to hear what we have to say so that you can make an informed decision when you go to the polls on May 8th. I'm here tonight because of a decision I made while at the polls in November of 2003. I'm a believer in democratic government, and I was puzzled why no Republican ran for mayor. Is the job that unappealing that no one would try? Did no one feel that the city should move in a different direction? Who knows, perhaps both. In any case, I decided at that time I'd seek the position of mayor in 2007. I've worked hard since then to prepare myself for this undertaking. Wapakoneta is a turning point of great opportunities. With the award of the Job Ready Site Grant, we are poised for new growth. We have a positive development in park and recreational funding. We have the possibility of state funding for school improvements. I think what we need is leadership to move us into the future. The mayor needs to be someone that can rally people to work towards a common goal. My platform is fairly simple and consists of 3 basic components. First, I want to do everything I can to promote economic growth. No one wants more taxes, but everybody wants more and better city services. Thus, we need new taxpayers. New business brings new jobs. New jobs bring home sales. The economic engine of a community is the growth of existing business and attracting new business. We need to do all we can to move forward in this area. Second, I want to beautify Wapakoneta. When I speak of this, I mean issues like litter control and prevention, as well as helping focus on recycling and waste minimization. This initiative would also include taking the time to work with property owners to find ways that a property can be improved for the better. This process could include the formation of a community reinvestment area where property owners are offered tax incentives to improve real property. Lastly, I want to provide leadership, not just some of the time, but all of the time. The mayor should stop when he sees city workers out and about and ask them how they're doing and thank them for their efforts. The mayor should be available to citizens who want to ask questions and give suggestions about their community. The mayor should offer guidance and direction to the city. I see the mayor as the first citizen of the community, working hard to promote the city, encourage the city, and sometimes nudge the city where it needs to be. I'm excited for the privilege to be here with you tonight. America is all about government. I applaud those that vote and keep their eye on government of every level. The freedom for me to step forward and offer my ideas and service to this community is something I'm proud to be able to do. Hopefully, tonight you will find some of my ideas appealing and will support me in my efforts to serve Wapakoneta and serve in a way that will make you proud. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Finkelmeier. Mr. Henderson, your opening statement.
Thank you. Welcome to Tom. That was very eloquent on your part. I'd like to thank everyone that decided to come out to this event this evening. Thank the Chamber and the Wapakoneta Senior High School and the citizens of Wapakoneta that are really willing to listen, because this isn't real romantic stuff. You know, I spoke at the Optimist Club. I said, guys, it's not rocket science being the mayor, but it is quite important. It's quite important to me as a citizen, as an elected official. Over the last 12 years, you're elected official. You people put me into office, and I've been told that I've done an effective job running city council meetings. One of my biggest compliments was from a member of the press that said, you know what we like about you is you can make these meetings humorous, but you also stick up for the little guy. And I guess I'm here to tell you I'll stick up for the little guy, I'll stick up for the middle guy, I'll stick up for everyone if they have a point. As president of city council, I eliminated the 3-minute rule because I feel as tax-paying citizens, you deserve more than 3 minutes if you're addressing your elected officials. And, you know, a little bit about myself, I really didn't prepare an opening statement, obviously. You can tell that. I'm not winging this by any stretch of the imagination, but I would like to thank my wife and children for putting up with a dad on the first and third Mondays, primarily over the last many years, 12 years, with city council. You know, city council councilors and our opponent, our Democratic opponent, Rodney Metz, who I would say would get the most valuable city councilman award in prior years, and now, you know, we've got a progressive city council, so they're working on him on that, but a very, very hard worker. And so, I think it's great that Rodney's here present for this debate as well. But thank you to my wife and kids. You know, a little bit about me. I graduated from the Ohio University back in 1989 with honors. You know, I wasn't as good as my two older brothers. You know, my dad had a chance for 3 engineers, and I'll bring this up later probably, but he was 0 for 3. So I went into the financial services industry, sales 18 years ago, and have really never looked back. And again, that industry kind of takes me away from my family as well. So the other woman in my life, my mother, who's in the back row, we always like to sit in the back of church, you know, she grew up in a political family. My grandfather, Richie, was a city councilman, president of city council, was appointed as a state senator. So, you know, I admire him a great deal. That's why I became involved through several Rotarians and the Rotary Club, I should say, with the Farrell Ritchie Foundation. And we have given back a lot to Wapakoneta, to the tune of about $150,000 through fundraisers, the gazebo, the Farrell Ritchie Nature Center, $25,000 to our beautiful YMCA, and various other grants. I was awarded a community service award of $10,000, which I gave to that foundation, and that was part of that as well. So I would like to feel like I've personally given back quite a bit to the citizens of Wapakoneta. So after Ohio University, I was with Northwestern Mutual. I was the investment officer in charge with Robert W. Baird Securities. Decided after 15 and a half years to move on to my own private practice. I own Dome Financial Services here in town, bought a property, and am now contributing to the tax base in Wapakoneta, so rather than Shawnee. But anyway, thank you for this great opportunity to introduce myself, my family, for us to go over our views, agreements, disagreements, or whatever. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. We are now ready to move into the prepared questions portion of the evening. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond to the same questions, and by coin toss, Mr. Finkelmeier will answer first on the first question. We will then rotate who answers first from there. So, Mr. Finkelmeier, for you first of all, the first question: the city is in the process of developing a comprehensive plan. Do you support this current process, and if so, why or why not?
Thank you, Chad. I'm for any thoughtful planning process that seeks a better Wapakoneta. I had initial concerns regarding the $69,000 price tag for this program, but as that expenditure has already been approved, I now look to the results to make my judgment. I've spent considerable time on the internet perusing the comprehensive plans of other communities to gain insight into the process and what sort of results we can expect. The initial benefit is definitely the gathering of information that takes place. Already, the website of Wapakoneta's comprehensive plan is loaded with maps and demographic information, which has been a boon to me in my research to better understand our city. I think the steering committee is formed as a diverse and forward-thinking group. We are fortunate to have folks like them who are willing to step forward and serve our community. I believe this group will offer a broad base of opinion when the final recommendations are made to City Council. The plan is underway, and the process is bearing fruit. The responses have been very insightful. There seems to be overwhelming support for better streets, but unfortunately our 2 street levies failed 40% to 60%. There is tremendous support for improving the downtown area and the area along the river. The city pool is another recurring theme. This is all good information that will help city leaders focus on what projects to tackle next. It is my sincere hope that this information and the plan that results from it will justify its expense.
Okay. Mr. Henderson, same question.
Yes, regarding the comprehensive plan, I do support the comprehensive or the development of a comprehensive plan. Planning is the best way to gauge success. I love the cross-section of our citizenry that are involved. We had such a diverse group with our planning team, if you will, and it gives the citizens a chance to give their input on what needs to be changed or not changed or bettered or not bettered within the city limit or within the city of Wapakoneta. So yes, I definitely support that. Economic development, although very, very important, isn't always about hitting the home run with a big manufacturing site or retailer. So I think listening to our residents is of utmost importance, and I think that my very proactive city council has done that in developing this plan, and it'll give us a track to run on and move positively forward.
Okay, gentlemen, the next question is as follows. The sale of city-owned TSC stock will generate a little over $2.1 million that is restricted for capital improvements for public recreational use. In your opinion, what should the city do with this windfall? Mr. Henderson, you have first response.
Well, the monies received from the TSC stock certainly are a very welcomed windfall at this point in the city of Wapakoneta's life. I think we need to take ownership of the community pool. And, there are 2 entities that are involved, and I don't necessarily think they want to be involved with the running of an outdoor pool, those 2 entities being the city school system and the Wapakoneta YMCA. So it's time for the city to take ownership of the pool. And with that windfall, we can look to the future and discuss any possibilities as ownership of the pool, what we might want to do, whether that is revamp what we have or start over. Swimming parks are very viable in communities our size. And I think they've been, we've proven that by St. Mary's, by New Bremen, and other communities of our size. So I think that's something to look at with a portion of those dollars. The other portion of the dollars would obviously, we would want to reinvest, as always, and have them fund other recreational programs as we've done in the past, because I think Wapakoneta, our rec programs are second to none. So with that, I would embrace taking ownership of the community pool and moving forward.
All right, very well. Mr. Finkelmeier, your answer. Same question.
Many folks would like to see a new community pool and think the money should be used for that purpose. Others say that we should only build a new pool if the voters vote to do so. I think both of these views are lacking in forward thinking. Spending any of this cash influx is not a wise move. Cash is king, and I don't want to trade away a cash reserve, even for something as desirable as a quality pool for our community. To those that say, take it to the voters alone, I think that's too conservative an approach. It's the duty of city government to seek to improve the quality of life of the citizens, and it's not feasible to take every issue to the voters. I believe I found a reasonable compromise. The city's TSC stock generated dividends of between $45,000 and $50,000 every year. That is important revenue for parks and recreation, and I do not wish to alter that. After the 18-month waiting period, when the city receives the full share of their TSC sale price, we will have around $2.1 million, which should be able to generate approximately $105,000 in interest income annually. I propose that $50,000 of that go to Parks and Recreation, exactly as it does now. I'd then like to see the city make an offer to the public to take a 20-year loan on a new pool. The city would be the borrower and would pledge $50,000 a year from this interest income for the next 20 years towards the pool project. The difference between the $50,000 annually pledged by the city and the actual cost of the pool project would have to be raised by the community, either a tax levy or private donation such as the construction of the YMCA. Thus, Wapakoneta obtains a new community pool we can all be proud of. The city stepped up and facilitated this process, and the people are invested because they had to step up too and take action to make this happen. Best of all, we pay forward by not spending the principal. The day will come when this project is paid and the interest revenue can be used for other purposes.
Okay. Mr. Finkelmeier, you have first response on the next question. As mayor, how will you be involved in promoting the Job Ready site?
First, let me say how proud I am that Wapakoneta was selected as one of the recipients of a Job Ready site grant. However, we have to look at the fact that this grant is $1.9 million to secure economic expansion here in Wapakoneta we did not have the day before the announcement. I'm certain there are dozens of communities that wish they'd been awarded our grant. Very few communities received this support from the state, and I'm glad our community was recognized by this program. As mayor, my strengths in helping promote the Job Ready site will be my sales background and my presentation skills. When a project like the Hyundai plant comes along and the governor of the state comes to town, the quality of our local officials will have little impact on a project of that magnitude. However, our Job Ready site is targeting a smaller user, a company that's regional or perhaps family-owned. I'd be a persuasive and personable asset for the city, a face showing that we have drive and pride in what we have to offer. I am proud and passionate about Wapakoneta, and it will show. Someone coming to see what we have to offer will see that when they meet with me. We need to field a team of polished professionals when meeting with new industry. Representatives from our local government, our Economic Development Council, and the Chamber of Commerce have to be the best we can be. I want to use my skills to be a powerful ally to those seeking to secure economic expansion in Wapakoneta. A company looking to locate a facility here will look at many things: quality and availability of workers, cost of living, quality of life, and frankly, what sort of leaders do we choose? I believe I offer state-level competence here at the local level. I want to put my abilities to work for Wapakoneta and our new Job Ready site.
Mr. Henderson?
Am I allowed to say ditto to that? So, the sales background, I've always had that demeanor as well, so I think we share that, and I think if we could merge all three individuals running for mayor, that would be a good thing as well. I see supporting the job-ready sites as a multi-dimensional effort. The mayor's role as a city spokesman, he puts himself out there. He needs to be the first person that, other than Greg Myers, that you see. I am passionate about the job-ready site grant monies because I was involved on that board of directors with economic development, which I have been for the last 12 years. From the time that we did the application, we hustled and hustled and hustled. Greg Myers, Mike Burton, and the whole Economic Development Board through meetings, early morning meetings, my involvement with the Community Improvement Corporation on that board of directors. Talk about early morning meetings. Amy Jump got in trouble for not having coffee. You know, she had toothpicks for our eyes, but we really put a lot of effort into that. So, yeah, although we were disappointed at the $5 million not coming to fruition, we'll take what we can get, and we will move forward in a very, very positive direction.
Okay, gentlemen, the next question, and Mr. Henderson, you have the first response here. The city is well known for providing an excellent variety of recreational programs. This one focuses, however, on should the city take ownership and operation of the community pool. Mr. Henderson.
Okay, I think this is going to sound somewhat redundant to those in the audience and those out in television land, but I think I've already answered that in that I feel that the city should take ownership in the community pool. You know, I think, our pool has been there since 1930. I think we deserve it. This obvious windfall from the sale of the TSC stock, I'm not saying that we need to take all of the dollars from that by any means. I would like to maintain the $50,000 at least minimally in revenues coming back to the recreation programs. But I think we need, it would be tough to go back to the taxpayers. It's difficult. I think infrastructure is a huge issue. And, our streets are only as good as we can drive on, and we got shot down on, I'm sure I'll talk about that later, on a couple street levies. But, I think it'd be tough to go back to the citizens of Wapakoneta and ask them to finance that. So that being said, I would look into a discussion. I'm anxious to see what the ad hoc committee comes back with regarding the pool and going forward from there, but not committing 100% of the funds to that pool, but committing some.
And Mr. Finkelmeier, your response on ownership of the pool?
Thank you. I've heard this question answered in many different ways, and most of the answers are frankly longer than the question. My answer is simple: absolutely. The city should absolutely own the community pool. It's ridiculous it's taken so long to resolve this issue. The schools have done an outstanding job maintaining our old pool, and I'd like to thank them for their efforts and expenditures. However, the time has come for the city to step up and take over. It's the responsibility of a municipality to own and operate a community pool. Wapakoneta city government has avoided this responsibility for over 70 years, but now they need to show leadership and move aquatic recreation in Wapakoneta forward. I've heard people say that they don't want to spend money on a facility which is only used part of the year. This is simply an excuse to do nothing. I don't see many sporting events played at Veterans Park in January. Not much happens in our attractive and professional council chamber except for a few nights a month. The county fairgrounds are empty except for a few times a year. This sort of misdirection is non-productive. The city should own the pool and make a plan to replace or improve the pool because it's the right thing to do. Swimming is an incredibly important skill. The ability to swim can reduce a slip into a body of water from a life-threatening event to something for America's Funniest Home Videos. Every child should learn to swim, without exception. Not only is this a skill that can save one's life, but it affords a lifetime of healthy competition, recreation, and exercise. It is an activity that can be enjoyed by folks of every age, and it's something that, frankly, every other community of quality takes for granted as something their government should provide for them.
Okay, gentlemen, I will remind you of 2 minutes on this next question. What do you believe will be the biggest challenges facing the new mayor during the 2008 through 2011 term in office? Mr. Finkelmeier, you're up first.
Thank you. I think economic development will always top this list. While the mayor cannot snap his fingers to make economic development occur, he needs to do as much as possible to facilitate new growth and also assist existing businesses to succeed. If we want more and better city services, but we don't want to increase taxes, then we need additional taxpayers. I believe the best way to accomplish this is with commercial growth. Our job-ready site provides us a great opportunity to market Wapakoneta to new industrial growth. I also want to promote retail growth and professional growth as well. To have multiple medical centers under construction is a good thing for our community. I think the aging of the baby boomers has something to do with this, but it's good for citizens of every age to have quality health care options here in our community. I'm proud to say that our community, while not perfect, is fortunate to have very few true challenges facing it at this time. Funding is always a challenge and always will be, but through hard work and leveraging local dollars with outside dollars from the state and grants, we have been able to get some things done. We are fortunate not to have problems of a greater magnitude. I think the city's self-image is going to be an important issue for the new mayor. I've never been able to understand why, in my opinion, this community seems to have such low self-esteem. We have a prime location on 2 major highways. We have land for growth on nearly every side. We have good schools with exciting prospects for improvement. We have a rich history and a famous native son who gives us a mention in almost every history book. We need someone who will help us focus on these positives and what we can work on to make our community even better. Don't get me wrong, there's real work to be done, and I believe Wapakoneta is on the right path for growth and progress. I'd like to do what I can to improve community spirit and appreciation for what we have and where we can go.
All right, thank you. Mr. Henderson?
Yeah, I can see why we went to the change format from 1 minute to 2 minute answers now. So, the city's challenges are the mayor's challenges. Obviously, economic development, but infrastructure. We have severe infrastructure issues. We all know about Benton Street and its major improvement project. We need to figure out something, a way to finance that. I look around the room, I see, Mr. Gager here. Utility costs are a major issue, and we need to be vigilant as city employees, if you will, to keep those costs down to our consumers. As mayor, I guess I'll be very interested in seeing the results of the comprehensive plan and trying to implement those results through positive, forward thinking. And obviously the JRS program, and that will definitely remain a hot topic and a high priority in the mayor's office.
All right. Gentlemen, the next question is, questions of code enforcement in the city's residential areas have come to City Council recently. As mayor, how would you address code enforcement? Mr. Henderson, you're up first.
Well, since I get to run the meetings, and usually when people show up at City Council meetings, they pretty much have the same looks on the faces as the audience. They're typically not real happy to be there. And I sit there in between 7 very capable individuals that have to, field some pretty tough questions, and code enforcement often comes before our panel. I guess I would advocate, if elected mayor, the employment of a code enforcement officer. I think that position is on the books. I don't know that it's ever been utilized, but it would be the best way to ensure that the city ordinances are effectively governed and in a fair manner. And if anyone is in violation of those ordinances, then they are dealt with effectively. Our police department has many better things to do than to be trying to track people down because their weeds are high or their grass is high or whatever. I want them out there keeping our children safe in the parks and everything else. And our employees, city employees, work far too hard to be doing anything like that. So I would like to investigate the possibility of advocating the employment of a code enforcement officer.
Mr. Finkelmeier, your response?
This is an excellent question and speaks right to the heart of the mayor's position. The mayor does not control the city's funds. The mayor does not write the city's laws. The mayor is the chief enforcer of the city's codes and ordinances, so this question is very pertinent to the mayor's purpose. As I see it, the mayor has 2 roles in code enforcement. First is the obvious, which is to see that they are enforced. This could include the hiring of an inspector to follow up on certain codes and report to the mayor, and I would support such an idea. Frankly, the city engineer's position has been vacant for too long. There's plenty of work for this department as it is, and I do not want to see it go short-staffed any longer. The second role of the mayor is to explore the code with council. There are many codes already on the books. If they are not being faithfully enforced, then why not? Is it ambiguity in the codes? Contradictory codes? Is it a training issue? Or is there simply no one at this time to actually follow up on code enforcement? The mayor should work with council, offer feedback on any codes that are hard to implement, and offer suggestions as to how the codes might be revised to be more easily enforceable. This process is already underway in council. Council's moving to consolidate existing building codes. Existing codes reference 2 sources, the 98 Ohio Building Code and the 04 International 1 and 2 Family Dwelling Code. Why we had two sources for this material is unknown, but it cannot have made enforcement easy. The mayor has no power to write the laws, but it is his duty to work with council and help them draft laws that are understandable, enforceable, and most of all, fair.
All right, thank you. The next question for you, gentlemen. What plans will you bring forth to help revitalize the downtown district? Mr. Finkelmeier, you're first.
The feedback from the comprehensive plan surveys indicate that this is definitely a hot topic with many in the community. I think the first step the city needs to do is to take ownership in the downtown. I'm not talking about actual deeds to buildings, but a sense of civic responsibility to work with the property owners to make positive changes. The backside of downtown is an eyesore, as we all know. What shall we do to make it more attractive? In some cases, we're not talking large dollar amounts. Perhaps the city could offer some free dumpster days and volunteers from community groups to do some simple trash cleanup behind town. Perhaps on an individual basis, different buildings that have, for example, boarded up windows could be identified, and the owners assisted in replacing those windows with glass with shades behind them. I think with donated labor and proactive leadership from the city, a modest investment of $5,000 to $10,000 to match building owners' investments dollar for dollar could make tremendous improvements. Perhaps a plan where different building backs are painted with different colors from an attractive palette of several choices would bear fruit. All the building owner has to do is approve. We can seek donations for paint, and the actual painting can be done by volunteers and city employees. These are just a couple of low-cost ideas that could have a positive impact. What is required is leadership to get the ball rolling. I've already had a hand in some positive downtown revitalization. The thing I'm most proud of in my tenure as president of the Wapakoneta Area Chamber of Commerce is our new home in the Wapakoneta Community Development Center. The generosity of the Wapakoneta Eagles and the vision of the Chamber Board have allowed us to take a vacant downtown storefront and remodel it to be a vibrant and attractive downtown office center. When I spoke of the mayor being an asset to economic development, sitting at the table with new businesses looking to locate in Wapakoneta, that table will be in the Heritage Room in the center. It is my hope that this facility will be a lasting legacy of what organizations already here in Wapakoneta can accomplish when working together.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson,
You
your plan?
almost got the bell on that one.
It's close.
Revitalization of downtown, should be looked at as a multi-pronged approach. Mixed use. We have, a very atypical downtown. We've got, people that are taking commercial buildings and making them residences. More and more. We've got restaurants and commerce, the Chamber of Commerce, in a beautiful building, central now, with the ability to come off at street level. When I was on the Chamber Board of Directors back in 95, I think, through 97, we met in the Wigwam. So you guys, kudos to you and all your hard work with the Chamber of Commerce. I hope that we spark additional interest in residential revitalization. I think the Wapakoneta Downtown Partnership should team up with the city and become, more aggressive in their efforts toward revitalization.
Okay, gentlemen, our next question this evening. How would you prioritize the infrastructure needs in the community, and how would you finance any of those improvements? Mr. Henderson, you're up first.
Well, streets, you've heard me say it at least twice tonight, streets are an extreme priority as far as I'm concerned, and no one was more disappointed when the both street levies failed. We had our first street levy that was going to be attached to property taxes, and it went down, as Mr. Finkelmeier mentioned, 60% to 40%. The second one was going to be a 0.5% income tax, and again, went down pretty much by the same numbers. So, I was disappointed with that. As mayor, I would not be opposed to another street levy if City Council so chooses. Maybe we could be somewhat more positive. We said that our Safety Service Director said, let us show you that we can be good stewards with these funds. Well, obviously the community felt that we couldn't be good stewards with those funds. That $500,000 income tax would have created $5 million, $1 million a year over 5 years. It didn't happen. So, what do? We have been saving money. In other areas, I think our buildings are in good shape, and I know our employees work hard to keep those in good shape. But infrastructure is a huge thing, and I think we need to discuss ways to either finance or come up with a way to get the total street reconstruction done on Benton. So that being said,
Mr. Finkelmeier?
First, let me lead by saying that the mayor is not in control of the city's purse strings. He cannot dictate spending, but merely advises to a course of action. However, the setting of priorities is definitely within the mayor's sphere of influence. When we discuss infrastructure, the obvious need that stands out are the streets, and the old part of Bell Fountain Street in particular. I believe that this is a critical gateway to our city and must be updated. I'm aware that the city is currently working to obtain some outside dollars to move forward on this project, but if that effort fails, we need to rearrange our priorities in some way to accomplish this rebuild. I believe that over half the visitors to our city must enter by Bell Fountain Street. I know the cost of a rebuild is high due to the combined sanitary and septic sewer under that street, but this cost must be paid. Those that enter from I-75 see a vibrant and active commercial district, which then quickly deteriorates into some of the worst street in our community. There are many areas that require street repair, but this one has to be made a priority. Think of all the major entries to our city. They're all in good to excellent shape, save this one. We tried to pass the street levy twice and were defeated, using a property tax and also using an income tax. It's difficult to obtain broad support for streets alone. People don't want to pave a street across town when their own street is in good repair. Despite this, 40% of the voters voted yes for each street levy. No one wants to discuss taxes, but I have another alternative that could tie in with the pool issue. What if we proposed a 0.5% income tax levy for 5 years, much like the street levy before, but broke it into several categories to obtain broader support? Say 0.2% for street improvement, 0.2% for the pool, 0.1% for safety services. Might the voters be willing to support a modest community improvement levy that benefits several projects? I cannot predict what the voters would say, but as a private citizen, I would vote for such a community package. It would benefit many city projects.
Gentlemen, your next question. Describe how you believe the mayor can improve the quality of life in Wapakoneta. Mr. Finkelmeier.
The mayor is the leader of the city. He sets the tone on how all city departments operate and how they interact with the public. Frankly, the mayor's desk is where the buck stops regarding city operations. I believe the mayor can significantly affect the quality of life in Wapakoneta by being a positive, proactive, and visible spokesperson for our city. What we need is someone who wants to be in the trenches, someone out in the community from day to day as part of their normal life, working hard to make sure that the people see that somebody cares, somebody will listen. The people need to infuse this position with new blood and new life as they did for council seats in 2005. If we do what we've always done, we will receive what we always have. It's time for new leadership. I envision the mayor as fulfilling two roles. The obvious is the overseer of the various city departments. I want to empower the department heads to run their departments. I will not micromanage the community. As long as results are positive, I will focus on the big picture. I am an educated man. I can understand the basic process to take groundwater and purify it for drinking. I need that overall understanding to effectively run the city, but I don't need to know how to run the actual machinery. We have excellent folks that are trained for that purpose. That being said, the mayor is the one person in the city that can notice details and get small things accomplished that should be done. One example is street signs. The intersection of Bellefontaine and Wagner Streets is not marked with even one street name sign. Again, this is a major route into our city, and visitors may be looking for that street. The mayor is the one person who can make a phone call and get that small task accomplished. My home is on the intersection of Fernwood and Cottonwood. The sign for Cottonwood has been misspelled for at least 10 years. It sounds like a small thing, but it displays a lack of attention to detail. We're not talking major expenses here. The mayor is the person who can have an eye out for details of things that need attention and focus the city upon them.
Mr. Henderson?
You know, you're the only shot we're going to have at a bell tonight. So, the mayor cannot improve the quality of life in the community, but he can, based on his decisions, influence the quality of life. You know, as mayor, I brought up I would support the ownership of a community pool. That's a quality of life issue. As mayor, I would investigate quiet zones at railroad crossings. Again, that's a quality of life issue. As mayor, I would encourage a discussion on how to finance, again, Benton Street. Again, quality of life, because it's street revitalization. As mayor, I serve and have served on the board of directors of economic development. I guess I would just switch chairs, but I would continue. There wouldn't be a transition. I would just continue on with what I've been doing over the last 12 years, and meet the new industry and get out and meet and greet economic development also goes with the McCains and the Larry Winters that have bought buildings or built buildings and flower shops and family videos and everything else that's here. So as mayor, I'd be open and engaged and ready to discuss whatever anybody wants to discuss, because quite frankly, our mayor's office door has been closed for quite some time, and I look to change that. I look to have an open door policy, a transparent office, if you will. I'll be available for phone calls, for people to stop by and talk to, and my door will always be open.
All right, gentlemen, we continue with this topic. The condition of the city's major thoroughfares have been a concern. How would you address this issue? Mr. Henderson, you're up first.
Well, first of all, the city does have a plan that methodically addresses the maintenance of our city streets. I'm not sure when you spoke of Bellefontaine Street whether you are aware that 3 years ago our engineering department did a study. They went out and they wanted to see what it would cost for our maintenance of our streets, what we had to look forward to in the coming years. And unfortunately, that cost was $10 million. Thus the Tom Steinecke and the engineering department, thus the two levies, the $5 million and $5 million. And, that's staggering. And when I mentioned earlier, we have put money aside. I think in our street and sewer improvement fund, we have about $621,000 there. And in another fund, we have $521,000 there. Now, with the Bellefontaine Street project, we've applied for a $2 million grant to the state. And those funds would be payable 80% from the state, 80% from the state, 20% from the city coffers. So we kind of need to be diligent with that 1.1 plus money, $1 million of money, in case we would be awarded those grants to take care of Wagner Street or Bellefontaine Street from Wagner to Water. So that's $400,000 right there. But we have been quite diligent, I think, with the city coffers regarding thoroughfare and street reconstruction. We've done some paving. I know that's on the books, but that's what we're looking at as well. So,
Mr. Finkelmeier, your response?
I think the key is to prioritize and budget. As Mr. Henderson says, the city already possesses such a list, ranked by priority, of the major street jobs that need to be addressed. The estimated cost for the list is $10 million. That's why the street levy, which failed twice, was proposed, to do this list of important projects. As it was, the 5-year street levy would only have paid for half the needed improvements. Since the street levy failed to pass, it falls to the city to find a way to have these projects done within the funds we already have. I'd continue the process of seeking grant money and state matching funds to complete any of these projects. Some of these projects are more than 20 years overdue. When working with that sort of timetable, I'm not opposed to trying to leverage some of the city's cash flow with some modest debt or a bond issue. If we wait until we have the whole $10 million, or the state offers us on every project, we are never going to get these projects done. I propose that one individual project be identified as the priority, and then sharpen our pencils to find out how that can be done. Borrowing the funds for all the projects is also not financially feasible, but perhaps it could be for one or two critical projects. I honestly don't believe the public expects the entire city to be repaved and improved in one fell swoop. I just want to show the public some visible and positive improvement, and I feel it can be done if we explore all the options. We could propose to the voters, as I've said, a very small tax package that supports multiple issues, and possibly they would support that. However, failing that, it's just a matter of doing the best we can with the funds we have. In the end, we cannot spend more than the voters will allow.
Thank you, gentlemen. Our next question this evening: how would you define the position of mayor for Wapakoneta if you should be elected? Mr. Finkelmeier, you're up first.
If elected mayor, that responsibility will remain with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I want to always be a positive role model and ambassador for our city. I want all interactions in my daily life to reflect favorably on the city of Wapakoneta. I want to use my expertise and skills to continually look for ways to improve Wapakoneta for the citizens and our children. The community holds so much promise for the future. All I believe we need is a little focus, someone to say, hey, that's not right, or this needs our attention. That's what I offer as mayor: enthusiasm, integrity, and dedication. I want what's right for Wapakoneta. In my observation of city government, I believe I've seen a pattern. Too often it appears that the government is going out of its way to make sure any vocal person or group is placated. If elected, I will not promise to make everyone happy. I promise to be fair. It's the job of government to be fair to all concerned and strive to make positive improvements which benefit all the community. not just those that speak the loudest. My goal will always be to deal fairly and consistently with the public. As much as I'd like to be respected as a good mayor, this election is not a popularity contest. This is a serious position with serious responsibility. The legacy I hope I would leave is that of a faithful public servant who took all options into consideration and who did what was the most beneficial course of action for the majority, regardless of the popularity of the decision.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson, your response.
Yeah, I have been a faithful elected servant to our city, so I was happy to hear you say that. Our city has, for so many years, operated under a weak mayor, strong safety service director position, and I would look to change that going forward. Like I said, it's not rocket science. It's just being positive, effectively communicating with your constituents, with the people, and not trying to do everything behind closed doors like has always been done in the past. There was a gentleman in administration when I was first elected to council back in 1995 that said, "Mr. Henderson, we can handle a lot of these questions or concerns of your constituents," when my phone would ring, "behind closed doors. You don't need to bring this stuff up publicly, in the public forum." And I scratched my head and I said, okay. And I didn't change anything that I was doing because, that's the only way. It's been my history with our administration and city government that we get anything done when we do discuss it in the public forum. So hopefully I look to change that through a transparent office with an open door.
Okay, gentlemen, our next question this evening. What is your plan for the eventual hiring of a new safety service director should that position become vacant? Mr. Henderson, you're up first.
Okay. My plan, I don't know. Rex Caterhunter called me today. I know he's on the golf course. I probably shouldn't get him in trouble for that unless he's getting wet right now in Waynesfield. But should that position come available, it's a top city employed job within the city. So should that become available, I think we would need to be diligent. I know that the safety service director deals at the discretion of the mayor, like it or not. That's just how it is. But if I was elected mayor, I would definitely want to have work diligently with my city council and have a good relationship with them, and try to have a search committee or, consulting or something. Like I said, my father had 3 chances at engineers, and he got a CPA, a preacher now, and a systems analyst and a financial planner out of the mix. But I probably would have flunked drafting my freshman year because I'm not real good at looking at blueprints. It's all flat in lines. So I wouldn't pretend that I know anything about PE or engineering or anything like that. So I would need some help to make that decision, but it would be a very diligent process if we do go that direction going forward.
Mr. Finkelmeier?
Thank you. The process I would go through would be a public posting of the position to put the word out to qualified applicants that Wapakoneta has a need for such an individual. Once we had some applicants to work with, I would form an interview committee to meet with and review the applicants. This committee would be formed up of the city's department heads, former mayors, community leaders, and hopefully the outgoing safety service director. I envision a process where there are rounds of interviews where applicants are scored by these various individuals. The type of experience we seek is well known. Someone with an engineering background would be a plus, as would experience running a city department. Experience as a city manager or a safety service director in another community would of course be a plus. Most important to me would be management skills. The position touches everyone in the community in some way. The community elects the mayor, and the mayor appoints the safety service director. I would want to know that I could trust this individual with our city. It would take interviews with this team of persons to make recommendations to the mayor on the various candidates. In the end, the decision falls to the mayor alone as to who would fulfill this role. This has to be one of the most important decisions facing a mayor, and it would be one that I would complete with patience, thoughtfulness, and much deliberation.
Okay, gentlemen, our final question from the prepared questions portion of the program. How will you motivate city personnel and city council to accept and follow your leadership? Mr. Finkelmeier.
This was not one of the questions I provided, but it's one of my favorites to answer here tonight. Leadership comes from respect, and respect must be earned. To paraphrase the old Smith Barney commercial, as mayor, I'll seek respect from city personnel and city council the old-fashioned way. I'll earn it. Respect is a function of time and commitment. You don't earn respect or the office of mayor by just putting in the time. You have to put forth the effort. I appreciate that once one has served a period of time, they've gained valuable experience. But is that experience at the expense of enthusiasm? In 2005, we saw 4 of the 7 council seats go to newcomers. I think the voters sent a powerful message that business as usual is not what they want in Wapakoneta. Many people I've spoken to over the course of my campaign have told me they want to see things change. They aren't talking about creating conflict between council and a mayor. They're talking about more dynamic leadership. I believe that the people want a mayor who's going to be active in the community, asking why and why not. I want to be the mayor asking these questions and working for positive progress for our city. I believe that too much experience in local government may eventually become a liability. Many years in the system may give one the tendency to say, we tried that once, or perhaps we tried that 3 times. I'm open to all suggestions. I'm willing to try any new course of action that has a reasonable chance of success for our city. Abraham Lincoln failed famously in many ways before becoming President of the United States. If we try something and it doesn't work, sometimes we have to try it again. The promise I make to the voters is that if elected, I will serve to the best of my ability. I will work to build camaraderie and fellowship between the city departments and employees, and I will fairly hear all suggestions brought forth to better our city.
Very well. Mr. Henderson?
Okay. I find the best way to motivate people and the city employees would be to lead by example. And I think I can be effective in that manner. Regarding the relationship with City Council, I feel very confident I have the support of probably 6, maybe not 7, but probably 6 of the City Council people that presently sit on the board. And I'm very proud of the sitting City Council that we have right now, because they truly have been a very proactive council. You know, I used to be able to run a meeting in a half an hour. The press would joke and everything else in the last terms. Well, now, I mean, we're getting down to brass tacks, and we are moving forward in a positive, forward-thinking direction. And for that, I applaud City Council. Administration hasn't had a whole lot to do with that. Obviously, if you've read in the Wapak Daily News some of my comments, when I was on vacation, I did a telephone interview. Mr. Laney doesn't realize that Hawaii is 6 hours behind Wapakoneta, Ohio on time. So, you know, I think I said all that stuff, but I'm not completely sure. But, you know, just forward thinking. You know, Mr. Finkelmeier stole my micromanage, but I've never micromanaged my city council people. When I put them in charge of a committee, I don't have to show up at the committee meetings. They're going to come back and report back to me and to city council on what they've done, and they've done a very, very nice job so far. So I look forward to working with this council, and anybody that wants to get involved. Kudos to Mr. Finkelmeier, Mr. Metz, who's put in a lot of years, myself, and anybody that gets involved in local government. You got to be a glutton for punishment. I could ramble on and on. I was hoping to maybe get the sign one time, but he's going to have to hold the sign up for 15 seconds before the 1 minute's up, as opposed to the 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, that completes the prepared question portion of our program. We now have time set aside for if any members of our audience here would like to ask questions of the candidates, they may do so. If anyone is interested, we'd ask that they come forward to the microphone up here to the side of the podium, state your name, and address your questions to the candidates. Each candidate, just as with the prepared questions, will have 2 minutes to respond to any questions offered to them. Is there anyone interested in asking a question of our candidates this evening? Please come forward, ma'am.
I'm Sue Evans, and if either of you are elected mayor, how would you make Hamburger Row, which is Bellefontaine Street, more inviting to visitors coming to Wapak? And what plans would you have for new businesses to beautify with landscaping their places of business? I've heard about a new street, but I haven't heard anything about beautifying the area.
Mr. Henderson, it is your turn to respond first.
How did I win that? I was going to say, because I lost all 3 flips to Mr. Finkelmeier, so I hope that's not foreshadowing for what's going to happen. But, you know, I was actually on City Council when we wanted to redo redo Bellefontaine Street the first time, and it always seemed like the people that were coming, and they were coming screaming, and I think Mr. Metz could feel me shaking in my seat down there, because it was pretty scary times, and the business owners were like, hey, let's, why do we have to make it 4-lane? Why don't you just make it another lane, 3 lanes with a turn lane? I'm like, why do we want to put a Band-Aid on something and connect 3 lanes into a new 4-lane overpass? But anyway, I think with the tree commission, I'm trying to find you in the audience with regard to the planting of trees. The infrastructure, you've heard me go on, and I won't beat that dead horse. But I think the planting of trees and other things out there might beautify the people as they come into our beautiful city. So that would be my answer. Thank you.
Mr. Finkelmeier, your response?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Sue. One of my components of my platform is Beautify Wapakoneta, and that would be a part of my platform to try and do things or to help council pass codes and ordinances that would force new businesses to have attractive buildings, including landscaping. Regarding the existing businesses, I would be loath to go and force those people to make expensive changes now that we've already assessed them for the streets. I have to be honest about that. But we can conduct our business as a city in such a way and reconstruct our codes and ordinances in such a way that future businesses that build new will have to comply with beautification rules.
All right, thank you. Are there other questions from our audience this evening?
Don't everybody jump up at once.
This is what it's like in my classroom some days, yes, and those kind of things. Well, hearing none at this time, we will move to the closing portion this evening here. Both candidates will be given 5 minutes to deliver a closing statement through coin toss and deferral, I believe. Mr. Henderson will be going first on the closing statement.
Okay, well, I think we can all tell who was prepared. I'm glad I did jot down a few notes before this evening, but, I like to maintain eye contact. It was real interesting when I read tonight's paper. I don't know if everybody saw this. Mike Burkholder did a wonderful job. He interviewed us and did a very nice job on this article. If you haven't read it, you can see this one or buy a paper on the way out of here. That's the last time I'm going to sell newspapers for you. But it was unique because, in the first paragraph with Mr. Finkelmeier, economic development and his background in sales, and the background in sales being a tremendous benefit, and the job-ready sites. And I'm reading this, I'm like, wow, that's pretty powerful stuff. And you know what? That's really neat, because that's what I've been doing for the last 12 years. That's what the citizens elected me to do, and I've been doing it. And I think I've been fairly effective in doing it. So, moving forward, like I said, it's going to be a transition. It would be a transition from the president of city council seat down to a lower table in the mayor's seat. But it's a position and it's a seat change that I would embrace and that I would be honored to do. And like I said, I want to have a transparent office. I don't have a good personal relationship, unfortunately, with our mayor, but I've left the personalities out of it, as I've asked city council to leave the personalities out of things. We got elected to do a job, and we need to do that job effectively with our communications and with everything else. So if I'm elected mayor, I promise to do a good job. I promise to embrace the position. I promise not to micromanage my department heads, not to micromanage my safety service director, not to micromanage city council. If everyone just does what they were put in office to do, and we move forward with a forward-thinking process in a progressive fashion, then we're going to be successful. And I know that I can do that. I know that I can lead us in a positive direction. I watched these debates, and at first it was called a debate, and then it was called Meet the Candidates or whatever. But, I watched that, and I'm like, man, these guys are all so full of beans, it's just not even funny. So hopefully you don't think that about either one of us, because I tell by Mr. Finkelmeier, we do both care very much about the city of Wapakoneta. I've given a lot back, a lot of sweat equity. You can see me sweating here. It's pretty warm in here, actually, but I've given a lot of sweat equity back via the everything through the Farrell Ritchie Foundation, through my involvements as a past president of Rotary, as a Paul Harris Fellow, fundraisers for Rotary, and it just, I want to give back with this position. My mother, who I love dearly, she's like, if you run for mayor, she's like, I'm not talking to you. I'm not going to, take your positions around, or petitions around. And my mother's a saint. Actually, my grandmother, Richie, said that she told my grandfather, she said, if you run for mayor, I'm leaving. And he obviously took the point because he didn't run for mayor. My wife didn't tell me that yet, so I was able to sneak the petitions by her. I couldn't sneak them by my mother, but I think I'll make her proud as well, and I'll make everyone in this room and everyone out that's listening to this proud if you give me a shot at becoming your mayor.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Finkelmeier, you have the last word this evening.
Thank you, Chad. I just want to thank again everyone who came out tonight or who's watching this at home. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people does not work without the people. You've already taken a great step towards electing your new mayor by paying attention to what's going on in your city. Every citizen who is registered to vote can vote. Please do so. Just because it's a Republican primary doesn't mean you're not permitted to vote in this election. You'll be a Republican if you cast a Republican primary ballot, but that's just till next time you go back and vote Democrat. If you believe in what I say, come out and cast your vote for me. If you think I'm a cretin, come out and cast your vote for Steve, but at least participate in the process. Often I'm frustrated when I know people do not vote, but they complain very loudly. I don't very much value the opinion of somebody who doesn't take the time to vote. It's your most basic civic duty. Mr. Henderson mentioned that we've had a weak mayor, strong safety service director situation in Wapakoneta. I don't know much about that, but I can tell you that the mayor is only as weak as he wants to be. The safety service director serves at the pleasure of the mayor. If you have a mayor who wants things done, they will get done, or there will be a new safety service director. It's that simple. In conclusion, Patricia Ingram, who is the director of Government Performance Project at Syracuse's Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs, says, "Where there's a strong mayor, there's a well-run city, which attracts residents and visitors. Contrary to what many of us think, the days of mediocre city management are coming to an end." Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll now turn the program over to Mr. Don Ritchie.
Just in closing our event tonight, I want to thank Dan Graff, who's Director of Chamber of Commerce, and Amy Jump, as administrative assistants, for all the work that they've done behind the scenes getting things prepared for tonight's event. Also want to thank TSC. It's just really important that they're here covering this event. It's a great opportunity, and I challenge every one of us here. We all know several people that are interested in voting next Tuesday, so please let them know that I believe, if not every day, practically every day, this event is going to be replayed on TSC, so I'd encourage you to tell people about it so they can see what's important to the candidates for this election. And lastly, I want to thank the candidates. I know Mr. Henderson and Mr. Finkelmeier have put a lot of time and effort and probably money into this election.
Just a little.
And I just feel like it was important, and we appreciate them coming out tonight and sharing their views on some things that are important to us as business owners and also citizens of Wapakoneta, that we can go to the polls educated next Tuesday. Thank you for coming, and good evening.